Yes, thank you, everyone. All right. Good morning, everyone. Very excited to be here today to present in a very broad outline the RDA's new comprehensive strategic plan for 2025. This is our first update since 2016, so it's been a while and it seems like a good time to have done this. This will serve as a roadmap for the RDA moving forward now that we have mostly completed our commuter rail expansion projects outlined in our 2016 update. The full 2025 update is undergoing the final editing right now, and that will be available soon. But in the meantime, here is a look at what's coming. So we have a slideshow here. So we'll start with what we've accomplished. So, of course, no look ahead can begin without a foundation. And in the RDA's case, that foundation consists of dozens of successful completed projects. We know that the slide is very busy, but that just shows the amount of work that we've done over the past 20 years, the investments that we've made from new rail lines to new commuter rail stations to the restored lakefront beaches, amenities. We have the second largest runway in the greater Chicago area right at our Gary Chicago International Airport. So, the RDA investments really have played a transformative and pivotal role in igniting economic development in Northwest Indiana and the quality of life throughout the region. So, along the way, we have accomplished some remarkable things. As you know, we have the Westlake Corridor. That's going to be dubbed as the Monon Line from here on out. Um, that's been talked about since the 80s, as we know. We made that a reality with $900 million in RDA funding and local funding and state funding and federal funding. So, together with the double track project, it represents the largest ever investment in commuter rail in the history of the state of Indiana. So, that's pretty impressive. The result is a new commuter rail system that can deliver workers to high paying jobs in Chicago faster, more consistently, more efficiently, more conveniently than ever before. So, for the first time, commuter rail in Northwest Indiana is operating on a competitive basis with Metra, giving us a real opportunity to leverage our lower cost of living, our lower taxes, and great quality of life. To attract residents, to continue to attract residents to the region. So, to capitalize on that opportunity, as you know, we've established a network of our transit development districts stretching all the way from Dyer to Michigan City. So, each district is very different. We tailored it to the individual character of each community. But in all of them, the RDA, we remain very dedicated to driving development through targeted investments that take advantage of the state's Indiana borrowing power and our own ability to act as an additional resource to our communities to speed up that growth. So, that growth is already evident. We have already more than $500 million in investments, including new apartment complexes, residential high rises. We have condos, we have mixed buildings, and much more. Those are already in the works or even finished, and all are being done with an eye toward the new people and new businesses that expanded commuter rail will continue to bring. So, you'll remember that our former strategic plan projected 2.7 billion and development by 2046. More than 2 billion of which is to come from private investment. So we're well on our way towards meeting that goal already, even before the upgraded service is fully complete, as I just reported out with the rail project. So we're actually at our 2029 levels. We had projected 300 million in 2024. So we are already twice that in 2025. So I don't want to I don't want to shortchange our other initiatives. I know that we've been very rail focused over the past decade, but we do have other initiatives that we've worked on. So, along with the Federal Aviation Administration and the City of Gary, we helped to fund the main runway and the rail relocation project at the Gary Chicago International Airport. And since that was completed in 2015, the airport has seen significant growth, adding, among other things, a new fixed base operator, new hangars, a U.S. Customs facility, and it's now undergoing its first phase of a planned $67 million cargo service infrastructure project to support its booming businesses in that sector, led by a long term commitment from UPS. And then with the shoreline, all along the Lake Michigan shoreline, RDA funded projects have opened up the lakefront for tourism and recreation, bringing new visitors and new dollars to our lakefront communities, many of whom have added even more improvements, from event venues to floating water parks to their shoreline. So overall, the RDA investment in the Lake Michigan shoreline was matched by about $100 million in local funds. So altogether, the RDA and shoreline communities invested $250 million over the course of the RDA's first 10 years. So as much as I enjoy talking about the RDA's accomplishments, today is about our future for this new comprehensive strategic plan. So let's go ahead and dive into that. So for the past 18 months, a multidisciplinary team has been at work crafting the 2025 update. So on one level, that job was very straightforward. The RDA was initially conceived to address specific issues. As we know, they're all those are laid out in our enabling legislation. These include rail and bus transit, airport development, shoreline redevelopment. So those areas of focus, those aren't going to change. But within and adjacent to them were a great many options that the RDA could pursue. So where should we focus our attention? What would give us the biggest bang for our buck? So those were the questions that we wanted answered. So we assembled this team with expertise in land use, engineering, and transportation. So what they did in turn is they talked to many civic and local business leaders, elected officials, region-oriented organizations, the RDA Board of Directors, of course. So thank you for your participation in that, in order to find ways to apply these ideas into actionable local ways that would positively impact the economy and raise the region to even greater heights. So some of the team are with us here today, the authors. So we have Bill Sheldrick and David Reynolds from Policy Analytics, and then we have Aaron Kowalski from MKSK. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank them and all of their efforts on behalf of the staff and the RDA and the Board of Directors. So thank you very much. And obviously, thank you to the Board of Directors for your continued support with this endeavor. The updated plan identifies 4 focal points of the RDA's future activities. These include continuing to invest in our transit development districts, continuing to connect to the greater Chicago economy, reclaiming and enhancing the Lake Michigan shoreline, and managing and supporting redevelopment across the region. So while the RDA has its overall priorities set down by legislation, these are the lenses through which we will view these priorities in the years to come over the next 2 decades. So in practice, this means continuing to leverage Northwest Indiana's unique advantages, such as our geography, our proximity to Chicago, our Lake Michigan shoreline, the presence of a national park. So the Chicago MSA is one of the largest metro economies, as we know, in the country. We have Lake Michigan. It's the largest lake located entirely inside the United States. And there are only 63 national parks. Most of them are out west, or they're in Alaska and Hawaii. So I know it's hard sometimes to see this because we live here every day and we're quote unquote Northwest Indiana, but it's really hard to understate just how much we have going on here. So with that, though, however, we do have our obstacles. Northwest, and this is not going to be a surprise to anyone, Northwest Indiana has a legacy of heavy industry that creates barriers to development, which the RDA will address by creating a nonprofit land development entity, and that will assemble, acquire, and stabilize challenging properties so that they can be redeveloped. With this land development entity, we're going to work with our agencies and our municipalities to identify those properties and procure the grant funding for the cleanup. So I'm happy to announce today that the RDA is also committing $5 million in seed money, from our own balances, so that the entity can get down to business as soon as possible. This initiative will also be incorporated into a basket of tools for use into our transit development district. So continuing to develop our TDDs, cleaning up the properties in the area is really low-hanging fruit for the RDA, given that development is already occurring in our transit development districts in several of them. So ideally, the assembly and cleanup projects, they won't happen in a vacuum, but will be connected to new developments. So that once a property is cleaned up, something will be built on it, so that a property is once more a financial contributor to the community. So, okay, moving on to the next part of our strategic plan. So, airport development. The RDA invested $50 million in the runway extension and rail relocation project at the Gary Chicago International Airport, as I mentioned a moment ago. That's triggered tens of millions of dollars of investment at the facility since 2015. So, we want to continue to work with the airport to develop new revenue strategies, flesh out both passenger and cargo services. Our 2025 vision has also identified the Porter County Airport as an underutilized asset for the region. So the airport is surrounded by a great deal of developable land, both within the limits of the city of Valparaiso and unincorporated Porter County. So we believe there are extensive development opportunities there, and I look forward to working with the airport, both airports, to capitalize on their opportunities. The next kind of theme of our big idea of our strategic plan, still shoreline, but with an emphasis on tourism. So the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore has been an official national park for 6 years, and the RDA is very eager to leverage that still new designation for the benefit of our shoreline communities and the region at large. So a great deal has already been done along the shoreline by the Park Service, public organizations like NERPC, local municipalities, and private groups to improve that access, to expand amenities, and otherwise bolster the visitor experience. So with this one, we propose to build on that work by pursuing a National Scenic Byway designation for portions of US 12. And more on that. So to be designated as a National Scenic Byway, a byway must meet criteria for at least one of 6 intrinsic qualities. It's archaeological, cultural, historic, natural, recreational, and scenic. The features contributing to this distinctive characteristics of the corridor's intrinsic qualities are recognized throughout the region and are considered regionally significant. So there are currently more than 180 roads designated under this program. One example here being the Blue Ridge Parkway, which we drew our inspiration from. This is in Virginia and North Carolina, and it also runs through a national park. So we're eager to get started on this effort. And in fact, with me, I have a joint letter of support from our tourism agencies in Lake, Porter, and LaPorte counties backing the creation of the Scenic Byway designation. And we've also had preliminary conversations with INDOT, and they were very receptive to the idea as well. Okay, so staying on the shoreline, our work with the towns of Beverly Shores and Pines, which is later on the agenda for the Transit Development District, that made us aware of the need to address the issue of sanitary sewer access in some of our lakefront communities. So several are still on septic. That does contribute to E. coli related beach closures along the shoreline. So accordingly, we have added this to our goals of addressing lakefront contamination and reclaiming industrial and utility properties in this area. Cannot forget about commuter rail. That, of course, made its way into the new comprehensive strategic plan. So what the RDA is going to do here, we're going to continue to explore further commuter rail expansion in Northwest Indiana. So commuter rail continues to provide a strong return on investment. We now have a proven model for funding and construction of the projects in the region. The 2025 update identifies several candidates, most of which have already been discussed out in public as possible next steps, as a possible phase 2, such as an extension of our Westlake line further south, branch off the main line to Valparaiso to the Porter County Airport. And it also suggests that an extension to Crown Point is worthy of additional research. So obviously nothing is set in stone here today, and NICD is currently working on their 20-year new strategic plan of their own. So more to come there. Stay tuned with that one. So the last one here, kind of our last big idea. So finally, one of the things that comes with growth is traffic. That shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone here. If you've driven the roads of the region the past 10 years, you know that traffic has only multiplied. So we're not, okay, so the RDA, we're not going to get into the business of building roads and highways. Other local and state agencies, they get funded to do that. But we will be looking to work with them to develop more road capacity with an eye towards diverting that traffic that currently comes from outside and passes through the region, either through it, more efficiently with less disruption to local traffic or just around the region entirely. So, what are our immediate next steps? First, creation of that land development entity. So without an aggressive, expanded program of environmental cleanup and reinvestment, Northwest Indiana will not be able to fully realize its potential. So the work done in developing the 2025 update was so strong in that regard that, as I said earlier, the RDA will be committing $5 million of startup funding for this land development entity. And we look forward to partnering with our local groups, our municipalities to start tackling decades long, century long problem. And then second, uh, for terms of next steps, begin the process of acquiring that scenic byway designation for parts of US 12. So this should help boost tourism interest and leverage the relatively new national park designation to continue to attract recreational dollars to Northwest Indiana. So that concludes the presentation. Thank you all very much to the board of directors for your continued support all along the way. And thank you to Policy Analytics and MKSK and the subcontractors for the completion of our new comprehensive strategic plan. We're very excited to get started here. So the only thing I would mention, if afterwards we have a videographer, if any of the board or anyone in the audience would like to provide comments on the video, please feel free to do so afterwards. And I'm going to turn it back over to our chairman here. Happy to hear any comments that the board would have. And I will make myself and my team available after the board meeting. And we are happy to speak with anyone to answer any questions or to clarify anything further. So thank you very much.